Good evening. My name is Dio Paradox. A video like this is never easy to make, and I certainly did not want to make one about Lenny. However, it seems to be that this is the sort of last resort. I just wanted to be made clear before this video starts. This is me not openly calling Lenny out for being a scammer. It's more of public awareness to a situation that I hope to be rectified. I won't classify it as a scam yet, primarily because Lenny I've known for years since being coworkers back at Diceblocks in 2024. I have amazing good things to say about Lenny, but it's just one situation that's just become a little bit too much of a strain, and due to the fact multiple parties are involved, that obviously something has to occur. So, who is Lenny? So, for those who aren't aware, Lenny is the active owner of RoStake.com and Delta Exploits. RoStake is going to be a Roblox case file site similar to Blockslipper Gold Pump, while Delta Exploits is a free exploit provider for the Roblox platform, maybe iOS and Android. So that is who Lenny is. Now, who I am, some of you may know me. I know a lot of you may not like me, but this video isn't about me. It's about the other people involved. But I'm Paradox. I'm Dio Paradox. I used to work in the casino manager and management in the marketing space in the Roblox area. I owned previously 2 casinos, which ain't even worth mentioning about. They great loot. And I'm the current CEO of PBG, that is what this sort of public awareness announcement will be serviced on. It will be serviced between my company, Paradox Venture Group, and his company, RoStake. Those are both of our projects. Now, there's other characters who you need to be made aware of too. There's Icy, who was a previous Arblex Wild manager, and he's a current manager of a gambling site. I won't speak on which one, but he's currently owed by Lenny 6,200 United States dollars. There's Judgment, who's the previous owner of Blocks Clash and WildBet. He's the primary victim in this situation, and he's currently owed 60,000 USD by Lenny. And then there's Ozzy, who's like the current manager of RoStake, but this nigga is the most useless nigga of all time, I think. I mean, obviously, like, just total gray loot. And by the way, just to get this on the record too, he ripped this has been here since 2021, this banner. This nigga ripped it, okay? So he did rip it, but it's all good. You know what? We move on. Anyway, now, what is this whole situation about? I mean, you may have heard about it, but I just want to educate you. So this was the initial deal. So obviously, I run a loaning company called Paradox Venture Group. We give loans to niggas, right? And sometimes you obviously need more money in the form of credit line. So casinos will offer my company a credit line. So let's look at the credit line of this deal that me and Lenny arranged. Now, you have to pay very close attention to some of these keywords. So I owed Lenny 14,250 USD from the last credit line. So that's established. So I would get $40,000 in marker credit at 5% interest with a payback of July 10th. 4 weeks from now. So every single week, I would make an installment of $10,000 towards the debt, right? And obviously, there was a late penalty. Now, let's look at the terms. The terms, this is the most important one. This is what this whole debacle is focused on, is that the balance is fully withdrawable even without paying back the marker. That's the most important thing. If the depositor code is under code PVG, we get 40% revenue share. Now, I'll go into what revenue share is in a moment. If it goes under a creator's code, it counts towards a deposit quota. And obviously, no loss back and no VIP program benefits, right? You can see Lenny agreed to the deal right here. This was 12th of June. This is the 12th of June, by the way. So this is very important for the timeline. And I asked him again, I said, are you 100% comfortable with all the terms? He said, yes. So I depoted it. So I took, as you can see here, this TXID, you can verify it. It'll be in the link in the description of this video. I send Lenny 14,250 USDT, and he says BRB, and he credits me my 20 million Robux or $40,000 with the exchange rate on the website. So our deal had not only been established, all parts had been completed from the time where I owed him money before, paid him, he agreed to the terms, and I got the balance. So what is a credit line? Now, you may be wondering, Paradox, if you run a loaning firm, why are you borrowing money from other niggas? I'll go more into that in a second. But mainly, it's because of the financial incentive of the revenue share. 40% revenue share, 10 to 20% interest, 10% equity in RoStake, which, by the way, I'm going to disclose it right now. I literally own equity in RoStake. I own 10% of this fucking project. All right. 10% circumstantial loss back, which was given at some points to people like, there was a high roller who played. I won't speak on him, but he played and he got lost back. And on-site rewards, which is about 5%. So on the dollar, for every $1 that I loan, I make between 15 to 85% interest or profit on the dollar EV. And me and Lenny have been doing business since April 13th, as you can see by this Telegram group. And he agreed to match the 40% rev share, as you can see by this discussion. Now, what is a credit line and why is one needed? So let's say I load $100,000 to Timmy on June 1st, right? With a 15% interest and a 30-day payback and a 40% rev share. Well, let's say Timmy loses, okay? I'm not seeing my 155,000 United States dollars until June 30th. So that's 29 days of no money. And there isn't only one client who needs money. There's dozens of loan clients. I previously owned a Discord. Many of you might be aware who are watching this video called PBG, where I did smaller loans, and it just got to the point where it was bleeding so much crypto. And you can see this is Bradley Baines, who's the amazing VIP manager of AceBet. And as you can see here, offering a credit line. And here's AceBet stats from one of my players. So they've wagered 566,000. They've deposited. This number's wrong. It should be around 500,000 deposits. But the point is, I've made 119,000 in commission off them. So I would have to bleed 200,000 in crypto, make 119 to make this, right? So 200K in crypto plus that's locked up. So at least to me become a begging ass nigga. And begging for a credit line is like a humiliation ritual. Like this meme here. What if Brown had WhatsApp? This is what me and Brown's DMs looked like before I stopped loaning as much. This is what me and his DMs looked like. Literally just me constantly begging him for money. I need money. I need money. And also, let me put it in this terms with AceBet. Okay, so this is Hobbs, right? And this is me. And imagine I'm like, Hobbs, I just burned 100,000 in crypto, and Brown can't float me anymore. And I have a 40K in pending rev share payout. Can I please have a credit line? How does that make me look to Hobbs? Are you broke, pathetic, miserable son of a bitch? I'm not giving you shit. And then I have to be like, bro, Hobbs, please, just give me some fucking money. I just hold me down one time with a credit line. He's like, fine, here, have this weak ass 20K, peasant. And then drives in his fucking McLaren. It's a humiliation ritual. So obviously, when my friend Lenny offers me one, I'm going to take it. And we had a very sound deal. Now, and I don't even want to speak on this, and Brown's going to kill me for speaking on this. But the reason why PVG needs credit lines and BCI doesn't need credit lines is because this nigga Brown might go down the Hall of Fame as greatest loaner of all time because he bleeds 6 figures a week on his primary casino business in crypto with like hold times with payment processors, and he still has hella liquidity to loan niggas. So there's levels to this motion shit. So you have to remember that as we read these messages. So let's look at the first victim, Judgment. Okay, now Judgment's the primary victim in this situation. I gave him 20,000 in markers, which he turned to 60,000 USD across the span of 2 days. Here's some of his primary battles that he won on RoStake. And you can see here a lot of 3K into 15,000. And this is profit, obviously, not the whole payout. So you can see here. And here you can see his withdrawals. $50, 16,000, 9,000, 15,000, 9,000, 9,000, a substantial amount, 60 grand, right? And this is victim number 2, Icy. Icy only took 500 USD on the June the 14th, and he cashed $6,200. Since then, obviously, he hasn't been paid out. Now, I'm going to play the interview between me and Icy so you can sort of verify with his own words, and he can cross-reference some things, so I'll play that now. Good afternoon, Icy, and thank you for sitting down with me. So, as everyone might know by now, you were one of the victims of the Lenny situation. I'd just like to give you your chance to speak on it. So, the first question is obviously, what is your online alias?
Hi, my name is Icy, and my online alias is also Icy.
Okay, and how much are you currently owed by Lenny?
6,200 United States dollars, 600 of which is going back to the person who gave me the loan.
Perfect. And where did this debt of $6,200 originate from?
I was given a marker on RoStake.com for 500 US dollars, which I then won from, and yeah.
How long has it been owed? How long has it been that you've been owed for?
I won on June 14th, 2026, and it's currently July 4th, 2026, around about 3 weeks.
And as you watch how Lenny handles the situation, how he carries himself, what is one thing, if you could say anything to Lenny right now, what would that one thing be?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really getting much insight on the situation. Also, I've known Lenny for quite a while. I've known of him and then got to actually know him a while ago, and I kind of trusted the whole situation and thought like something like this would never happen. So I'm quite surprised. I've not lost hope that I'm not gonna get my money, but I'd appreciate it if it was sooner rather than later.
Okay. Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Icy. Have a wonderful rest of your day. So as you can see, that was Icy's story, right? So a lot of people are affected by this. And finally, the third victim is, of course, the miscellaneous PBG loaners. So I did about $60,000 in total outbound and inbound loans, and they were taken by miscellaneous victims now, totaling an extra 15,112 USD in owed balance, which you can see by the withdrawals here. And I wagered 272,000. So how this would work is that it's obviously real money, right? I would give them money. I would give them the loan. And if they won, then I'd withdraw it for them. If they'd lose, then I'd count towards their debt. So I thought we had a perfectly fine deal. Remember, the deal has been established. And to be honest, we're only looking at 82,000 in withdrawals on 40K. That's not like if you depot 40,000 on a casino and you 2x it to 82 grand. That's all we're discussing. So let's talk about Lenny's initial reaction to judgment winning. So Lenny, this is June 14th. He says, your debtors robbed me. When is the marker payback? That worked out great. What are we going to do about it? Give marker payback. I don't have crypto, nigga. I'll process all the withdrawals. You shouldn't have an issue considering debt, collecting debts. So Lenny was willing to process all the withdrawals per our contractual agreement on June 14th, right? So obviously, you have to understand from Lenny's perspective too. I'm not going to hear dog on my friend Lenny or my person who I have an issue with. He's obviously going to be cranky because he lost 35K. We need to understand that. However, he has a change of attitude. Then he says that he sort of diverts his conversation from offering to pay it back to sort of, wanting to stall it out. So he said, because I thought you had no issues paybacking me. You have zero cash flow. So which I said, zero cash flow. Whoever's giving you that information is sped. You need to play your withdrawals on God. So I started getting a little snappy with the nigga. I'll deposit the 10K, but you got to pay this shit out. So as I said previously, I was going to take 40,000 in marker payback or marker credits and in 4 weeks. So I would have to make installments of 10,000 a week. And this is day number one. So day number one, so 6 days early, I was ready to make my first installment to just make him feel better because this is my friend. I want to work together. We've worked together for months and I want to make sure that he's taken care of. So he said, the issue isn't the personal debt, it's the marker debt. You said yourself before, PVG's burning cash, right? Which is true. In a way, PVG does burn cash. We constantly are very low crypto on hand. And that's why we go to these credit lines. But Lenny cannot use that as sort of a defensive point due to the fact that he knew that by the issue of the credit line. So I tell him, you need to honor the deal plain and simple. I'm honoring my side of the contract. You need to honor yours. He said, can you really? He said, what is the issue with waiting for PBs before withdrawal then? Don't say the reason was just because of the part of the deal, because this isn't the true reason. Brother, it's because I expect my players to be treated fairly. Now remember, how does this shit make me look? Okay? If someone wins money, they need to be paid out. That was the most important clause of the contract, was that they would be paid out before. And I'm offering to deposit the 10K. And I tell him this. I tell him, look, I got you the 10K. And he says, I don't have 70K in crypto, sir. I don't know how you expect me to process the funds. Now, this is the most important point because Lenny says this, and I understand that because think about it from Lenny's perspective again. He has to pay out 80-something thousand in withdrawals, plus also now he has to pay that all out of pocket and then wait 4 weeks for his payback. So I said, look, you could pay from bank, you can put it on a payment plan, as you'll see further. Now, you can see this go on for ages. I said pay out the IC withdrawals because IC was nagging me about his money. He said, when debt PB, everything then will be processed. I said, I can get 10K. I said, and I asked him, I said, are you fucking scamming us? He said, how is it scamming? I said, why aren't you processing the withdrawals? And he says, his reply was, I was sleeping. So I never met a nigga who slept for 5 days, but it's all good. He slept for 5 days. All right, let's say a nigga slept for 5 days. He said, I asked him, how are we going to resolve this? He said, I'd like to know from you. I said, want to sit down and discuss MVC? He says, I'm going to be pretty busy today. I say, look, can you just pay out IC's withdrawal since IC was only owed 6,200 and judgment's on a payment plan? Because think about it. If he doesn't have crypto liquidity, judgment can be put on a payment plan since judgment doesn't give a fuck about 60 grand, obviously. He has a little bit of emotion, And I tell him, you're ignoring me 24/7 and while your reputation's on the line. So then Lenny offers this deal. So Lenny goes from wanting to honor the contract to not wanting to honor anymore. And he breaks the contract fully, but he offers this deal. He said, he'll offer me this resolution that completely solves the issue. He'll approve all the outstanding withdrawals. He'll cancel the PVG ones, which is the 15,000 in my account, so I can resubmit it to the right wallet addresses. But judgments withdrawals are deducted to cover your debt, and he'd own the debt. Now, at the time, this offer was made around the 23rd of June. Okay, so after around 10 plus days. And at the time, we thought that we could still get him to honor the contract. So I went back to judgment and IC, and I told them both, I said, look, I still believe he can have the ability to pay this, which obviously is wrong. And then he would go on, he would get drunk and just ignore me for days at a time, as you can see here, hours at a time. And mind you, you might be wondering, Paradox, why are you so antsy in the messages? It's because these people trusted my company, PVG, to insure their money, and I'm letting them down. Think about it. They took a loan. They're taking all the financial responsibility. And now they're getting punished for winning. It's not fair. So I tell them, I say, I don't care if you're drunk. You can pay out the PVG withdrawals and the IC withdrawals, which is less than the 14K. I paid him back. And then we can just judge judgment when he's sober. And this goes on, And then I tell him at this point, it had been 11 days. And he's just completely ignoring me, right? So this is the full offer Lenny made us, which is broken down. So PBG owed Lenny 42,000. So the debt would be transferred to judgment and it'd be deducted off his 60K in withdrawals. Then our active 15K would be paid out, ICs would be paid out, and judgment would get 18,000 in cash. So then my company would owe judgment the money, which is no issue. But it's a breach of the contract that Lenny made, which is frustrating. But you know what? It had been 2 weeks at this point, and I said, Lenny, we're just going to take that fucking deal. June 28th. It was 16 days. And I said, you know what, Lenny? I talked with Judgment. Well, let me take a sip of my water. I talked with Judgment. I said, this is the best we're going to do. And Judgment had no issue taking the 42K Paradox debt or Paradox company debt because he knew that I could pay it off. So he was willing to resolve it that way. So I tell Judgment, I make a group chat between Judgment, me, and Lenny. I say, at Judgment, Lenny's willing to plead out. Deal would work like this. 40,000 PVG debt gets transferred to Judgment. Judgment's withdrawals past 40K are paid out. IC's withdrawals are paid out, and PVG withdrawals are paid out. So that was the offer that everyone was in agreement to. It was the offer that Lenny had made. It was the offer that we accepted, right? Then, he just completely ignores it, which is to the point why this video is being made. This is why this video is being made. It's because what happens after. This is June 29th, right? And then this happens. So June 30th, which is my birthday, ignored. And these are all as the messages stand right now. No, he didn't even read the messages. He's totally disappeared. So then, here's Osiri or Daniel, right? The most useless nigga of all time. Do not depend on this nigga for nothing. He is not worth a damn. This nigga is not worth a fucking damn. He messages me on the 26th of June asking for my side of the story, and I tell him, you can't do anything about it, so why would I even waste my time typing about it? And he tells me he can't help at all. And I ask him what I do is I ask him to schedule a 4-way call. Me, Lenny, Judgment, and him. He says, I can't do anything. He's powerless. He's the manager, but he's powerless to help, right? So in conclusion of this whole situation, it has been 21 days and nights since the start of it without any form of resolve from Lenny. Lenny's already breached the contract. He doesn't care about breaching the contract. Then he offers this bullshit deal that fucks over my people. However, my people go along and accept it. And then when he wants to accept the deal, now all of a sudden he goes AWOL again. And this is an 81,312 USD problem from over a dozen people. The PVG, there's a bunch of people from PVG's account that are owed, everything like this. And now I'm sort of stuck on what to do. My hands are tied, which is the purpose of this video. So, number one, I'd like to thank you as a viewer for watching. And number two, I mean, if you would like to contact me at all, if you have a similar experience with Lenny, you can contact me. My Telegram is Loner, @Loner, Loaner. My Discord handle is Dio Paradox. And I hope that Lenny watches this and sort of understands that we aren't out to get him. We just want this resolved. We can understand. I'm mature enough to see things from his side of the story, but he needs to resolve this. So I hope that this video, was properly made. I hope it explains the situation. Any more questions or clarifications, please message me on Telegram or Discord and let me know. I'm Dio Paradox, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.